All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another mental health discussion here at Lion Speaking Agency. Today's a very special discussion. We are here with a very special person here who I will introduce momentarily. And we're going to discuss the discussion that we're having today and the reason why we're doing it. So, what we do here at Lion Speaking Agency, if you're new to these mental health discussions, we speak about mental health and a variety of different factors and different mental health challenges that people deal with every single day. And recently on Fort Hood, there was a case where a young woman, Miss Vanessa Gillian, her remains were found on post after she had reported sexual harassment to her superiors, and it was a worldwide case here, and they were searching for her for days after she went missing, and they unfortunately found her remains. And I wanted to have a discussion about mental health and the impact that it has here on sexual harassment and the mental health impact that it has on employees, not only in the Army, but all around the world here. And I have a very special guest with me today, and I'll let her introduce herself and also what she does. So please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, thank you, David, so much. Hello, everyone. My name is LynJondria Kitchen. I am a SHARP program manager in TRADOC. What I do is manage the SHARP program for the installation of Fort Gordon. I'm basically the SME for the CG and all the O6 and above commanders on the installation. I maintain the program, the training stats, I maintain the cases, and the training that's conducted on the installation as far as SHARP. And that's pretty much what I do.
Awesome, awesome. So for our civilian audience out there, can you tell us what SHARP stands for?
SARP is Sexual Harassment and Response Prevention Program. So basically, it is a program that enables commanders, along with soldiers, to recognize, eradicate, and prevent sexual assault and sexual harassment either on post or off post. Basically, you're a soldier, you're a shipmate, you're a airman, you're a Marine 24/7. So this policy applies both on and off post 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Perfect, 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 perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to jump right into the questions here. So, the first question that I have for you is the process. If someone has experienced sexual harassment, what would be the steps that they would take to report this?
So, being in trade out, we have an IET population, which means we have the trainees. So they come to Fort Gordon in the 15th Signal Brigade to get training for their MOS. So we have drill sergeants and we have instructors that act as victim advocates. So if a soldier that is an IET soldier is being sexually harassed, they have a different set of protocols that they can follow versus an active duty service member if me and you were active duty. So if you're an IT soldier, there is information in your company on the back of your phase badges. The IT soldiers have phase badges, and basically it tells you what phase of AIT they are in. And it has our numbers on the back. So they can just flip their phase badge around, get on their cell phones, and give us a call at the installation. We have a 24-hour hotline that we man 24 hours a day. So they can call us any time of the day, any day of the week, and let us know what's happening in their footprint, or they can call us if something is happening to someone else. That's just one avenue. The second avenue is they can inform that person themselves if they're being sexually harassed. That's what we teach. You can say, hey, what you're saying is inappropriate. What you're doing is inappropriate. Sexual harassment, the confusion with sexual harassment versus sexual assault, someone can actually touch you on your shoulders or make contact with you, and that be deemed sexual harassment. A lot of people get that confused with any kind of touching. They automatically assume that that's abusive sexual contact or that's sexual assault. But once you get deep into the training and you understand what some of these areas are, then you realize, hey, I was indeed sexually harassed instead of sexually assaulted. So now I know what avenue to follow. So one, they can call the hotline. Two, they can engage that person themselves. Or three, they can go to someone in their chain of command. The chain of command can actually step in and let that person know themselves that what they're doing is inappropriate. They are obligated to document that they have indeed went to this person and talked to this person about what, the behaviors that they're displaying, make sure that this person is aware that it would not be tolerated, and that is actually filed at our installation office. So there are various avenues that you can take if you're being sexually harassed.
Wow. Wow. See, now I was in the Army from 2005 to 2010, and we didn't have this program. So it's nice to see that this program is in the Army now, because I can only imagine how many people have been sexually harassed and we didn't have this program. So who just really had to deal with it and the impact that it had on their mental health. And that leads me into my next question here. So let's say you have a soldier or someone has been sexually harassed, and it's been going on for a while, and they may say that it's had an impact on their mental health. Do they receive any type of break for their mental health, or do they receive any type of counseling after they report a sexual harassment or sexual assault incident?
They do. They receive extensive behavioral help. That is when we do the intake. So the intake is when we first come in contact with the person that alleged sexual harassment or sexual assault. That is off the rip automatically asked. Do you want medical services, i.e. medical can provide you with behavioral health services. They can provide you with counseling. So that is asked off the rip. So yes, they do have access to that as soon as they make contact with a victim advocate or a SARC reporting sexual harassment or sexual assault.
Okay. Good to know. Now, I know that it is, it's very brave for someone to go out and report sexual harassment, because sometimes it may be from a superior or someone that they may see as a friend who just stepped over the line with them, and they may not be comfortable with the way they're being spoken to by a superior or by a friend. So how likely is it that someone has come and someone will report sexual harassment? Have you seen more people report after the first incident, or people say that, hey, this has been going on for a while, and I feel brave enough now to report this?
Actually, what we've seen with the training that we've incorporated over the years and some of the programs inside of the SHARP program that we've created, we've actually seen more bystanders come forward reporting sexual harassment versus the person that's actually being sexually harassed. So
Wow.
the battle buddies or battle companions is what we're supposed to call them now. They're actually stepping up saying, hey, I don't like what you said to my battle, or I don't like what you said to my classmate. That's inappropriate. And they're actually being the ones that are coming forward reporting more than the person that's actually being sexually harassed. But I think it depends on what environment you're in. If you're in an environment or you're on an installation that is welcoming, those soldiers feel comfortable coming to you. They feel comfortable with the SARC or the victim advocate or even the chain of command. You're going to get a lot of sexual harassment complaints in this type of environment because, one, the soldiers are extremely young. They just came out of basic training. 9 weeks of basic training will not turn a 19, 18-year-old into an automatic soldier when they get the AIT. So there are going to be some small things, some challenges that they're going to go through. Sometimes you don't even know that a typical song you play could be deemed as sexual harassment. We've had those type of things where I may be saved and sanctified listening to Donnie McClurkin every day. You come in listening to the Migos, and it's inappropriate, and I say, hey, I don't like your music, but that soldier may take it as you don't like the way I was raised. This is the music I was raised on. And then they don't have a clear understanding. No, I just don't like the verbiage that's in the music, not necessarily the music. But that could be deemed as sexual harassment. So a lot of these young soldiers, they don't understand that. So we get a lot of those complaints, but it's good. Not saying we like to have sexual harassment complaints, but we like the soldiers to recognize what right looks like. And if you got to come let us know about it, that's even more better, because now when we go out and engage you in training again, then we know what areas to hit, because now we see where the plateau is. Okay, we're having a plateau in music. We're having a plateau in inappropriate jokes. So we know to hit that and get ahead of the power curve before things start getting worse. And then, once you allow things to happen, then it's going to be hard to come in and change some of the things that's been happening, because it's hard to change the culture when that culture has been, saturated so long and things that are not within good order and discipline.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think about that at all. Wow. Now, earlier you mentioned behavioral health. And like I mentioned, this is something that we didn't have when I was in the military. and sexual harassment, it was very rampant when we deployed to Iraq, and no one really knew how to handle it. And that's on top of the stress that you had serving and fighting in a war. So what type of, can you go into a little bit of the behavioral health services that you guys offer for someone who has reported sexual harassment or sexual assault?
Okay, so when they come in and they report sexual harassment or sexual assault, the intake form I was telling you about, we have what we call the SAC-C and the SAC-P. Those are our medical providers. The SAC-P and the SAC-C, they basically do all the medical paperwork. They do they get you involved in behavioral health as far as what counselor you may want to see. Some soldiers say, hey, I may not want to speak to someone right now, but down the line, I'll keep your contact information and call you later. We have groups where they can go in as a group and talk about some of the things that's happened to them, or they can go in one-on-one and talk about some of the things that have happened to them. Now it's so great that you can go to different installations. They have places like there's a horse ranch, where soldiers or victims or survivors can go to kind of just get their power back. Like they teach them how to horseback ride, and they're taking care of the animals. You know, it kind of gives them a sense of purpose. But a lot of these institutions are popping up around the nation. There's one at Pensacola, Florida that's really good. They go and they just concentrate on bettering themselves and getting their power back. So it's various forms of help that's out there that behavioral health can link them up with outside of just coming to the hospital talking. There are areas and there are places that they can go to get outside help in addition to the help that they get on the installation.
Wow. I like that. I like that because when I left the military, you know, I really didn't feel comfortable speaking to someone one-on-one about what I have went through in the military. But in a group setting, I could talk all day. Yeah, I could talk all day. So it's really nice to know that these people who have experienced these sexual assaults and sexual harassment, they have that safe space to go to so they can slowly ease their way back into the workforce, which is going to lead me into my next question here. When it comes to reintegrating the soldiers back into the workforce, can they ease their way in at their own pace? Can they say, hey, I don't feel comfortable returning to work, or can they request a new workspace or a new unit to be assigned to after they report sexual harassment or sexual assault?
So depending on what part of their career they're in, if they're a IET soldier, because they're not MOS qualified, they will have to go back through, or we will have to go back through HRC in order for them to get a new MOS because they have not been MOS qualified. So we can't send them to another installation because where would they go? They don't have an MOS, so there would be no slot. Right. So then we would just work with HRC to see about getting them a new MOS and send them to that location. Once they finish school at that location, then they can go forward and move on with their career. If they're already an active duty service member and they're here, we have what we call an expedited transfer, which they can request as soon as they file their sexual assault report. And basically they get a choice of where they would like to go. It doesn't always work out that way. You know, where you decide where you want to go. Basically what the Army's or headquarters DA's thing is, we're going to get you away from the threat. So you may have family that's located in Columbus, Georgia, and may want to go to Fort Benning, but there may not be a slot for you to go to Fort Benning. So I could probably send you to Fort Stewart, which is close to Fort Benning, because I know your family and your support system is in Georgia. So you have expedited transfer for those who are active duty service members. And then you have interpostal transfers for the ones that are not MOS qualified. So say I'm in Bravo Company and I'm harassed or sexually assaulted by someone that's in Bravo Company, I can move out of Bravo Company and go to a different company away from that subject. Because, you know, in IET, it's a more controlled environment. So it's not like this person is not accounted for after 1700. They're accounted for every 2 to 3 hours, even while they're asleep. Right. They're getting checked up on. So the environment is controlled. So they're less likely to move them outside of whatever brigade they're in, unless there's a serious threat. Otherwise, they will move the companies, but within that battalion, because of course that battalion has that particular MOS.
Okay. That's awesome. Okay. Now, let's say that someone does report sexual harassment or sexual assault, and many other people know about it, but they just don't know what to do. Now, once a case of sexual harassment or sexual assault happens in a unit, is there any type of counseling or any type of briefing that that entire unit gets? Because I can only imagine once someone sees another person come out and say, hey, this has been happening to me, they may feel brave enough to say, well, you know what, this has been happening to me too. So is there any type of briefing that a unit gets after a case of sexual harassment or sexual assault?
So what we do is what we call reinforcement training.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said earlier, if we see an intake or increase in a certain amount of cases, then we go in and look at what we're seeing. We'll go back to that unit and circle around. We'll either put on an event to fine tune the soldiers, to reinforce the policy, either on the victim side or the subject side. Because a lot of times we're in the SHARP program, I'm more risk reduction,
Okay.
prevention versus after the fact. Because I feel like if we get ahead of the situation, we educate, we prevent, then we won't have situations that will happen after the fact. So that's my philosophy. You know, the SHARP world is big. Everyone has their own philosophy, but I'm more risk reduction. So I find out ways to fine tune the soldiers and educate them. Hey, this is what right looks like. If it doesn't look right, then come up on the net and let us know so we can get ahead of the problem. Because once you start letting these things happen, then those predators start building up. And then the culture change. And again, like I say, if the culture change, it's really hard for someone to come in, no matter how ambitious they are about the program. I've been doing it for about 10 years. I am very ambitious about it, but I can't go into a unit and change that culture unless I can get to the root, which is the younger enlisted soldiers, and they can recognize what right looks like. Because if you look at some of the issues, like what's on TV right now, a lot of the soldiers that were being preyed on are lower enlisted soldiers because they're new to the Army. They're new to the service, period, and they don't know the ins and outs. So they've been taken advantage of because one, they haven't been educated long enough. Like versus me and you, that's been in 10 to 12 years, we've had sharp class after sharp class after sharp class. Versus a young private that's coming in that may get a 15, 20-minute training on it, but then they got to worry about going to the barracks and making sure the room is clean, and then they're getting integrated into their shop or wherever they're working. So they have a whole bunch of stuff that's on them, and they haven't learned the tools yet to put those things in place. So risk reduction and prevention, that's number one. So when you see those things pop up, those red flags pop up, that's when your mind starts running, and you start trying to come up with things to help those commanders and enable them, give them the tools to go down. I've had commanders that go down and talk to the lowest private that they can find about how ambitious and how serious they are about the SHARP program, all the way up to the commander general of the installation. So it's great to have leaders in place that support your vision and support the program as much as you support it, because you can't just have one person in the fight. We're all basically SHARP ambassadors, whether you are a Sergeant First Class or E4. Technically, we're all victim advocates. We're all SHARP professionals, because I'm a firm believer. If you live by the Army values, and I'm speaking Army because that's my background, then we wouldn't have SHARP cases, or we wouldn't have these issues.
It's the best branch.
Right. So if you live by the Army values, then those things like EO complaints and SHARP complaints, then those things would be a thing of the past. So to me, it just goes back to leadership and soldiering.
Perfect explanation there. Now, so after you have one of these briefings, and I like the way that you try to be proactive instead of reactive. Now, let's say that you have a situation where you've had an incident that's happened on post. Now, for those individuals who are still in that unit, so that their mental health can be relieved and know that they don't have to deal with this anymore, what happens to the person that the accusation is made against? Because I'm pretty sure there may be soldiers who just have a vendetta against a leader, and you may have some false claims here and there. This person said this person said that. So what type of thorough investigation or investigations do you have so that if this person is a predator or a threat, they're removed and the mental health of every other soldier can be, a little bit more at ease?
Okay, so I'm going to address the false reporting thing. There is I think it's 2%, less than 2% false reporting in the SHARP realm.
Okay.
So the way we look at it, a lot of people get false reporting confused with unsubstantiated or unfounded. So the way I like
Mm.
to look at it is if there wasn't enough evidence to support what the victim was saying. We're
Ah,
not saying it didn't happen. I never look at it that way
okay.
because a lot of things happen. Something may happen to me in December. I'm not educated enough to know I shouldn't go home and shower. I shouldn't cut my nails. I should save the
Mm.
clothing that I have on. I shouldn't wash my clothes. So a lot of the evidence that I could have preserved and made my case a little bit stronger, it was destroyed because I wasn't educated enough to know that. So
Great.
now when this investigation is going, the alleged subject, because CID doesn't have enough information, my case is probably going to come back unfounded because now it's my word against that person's word. And
Right.
a lot of people have cases against them and then it comes back unfounded and they were like, oh, well, I knew you were innocent. You wouldn't do that. No, that's not the case. The case is there just wasn't enough evidence. Not saying that's the case in all. There have been some false reports, but it is a very low percentage, a
Okay.
very low. Because CID make sure that they say, false reporting. They put it out in some of the trainings. If you lie to us, you are lying to a sworn officer. You are signing documents, government documents, stating that this is true. So these soldiers are educated against that. So I think that's a deterrent from because you can get just as much time for lying to CID as the person that assaulted you.
Oh,
So right, I think it carries up to like maybe 7 years.
wow.
And that's dependent on on the chain of command of where they want to go as far as punishment. But it's a very low percentage for false reporting. And the way I feel about it is you just didn't have enough evidence to support what the victim was saying in this case, so it came back either unsubstantiated or unfounded. Here, the way it's done is if you're an alleged subject in a CID investigation and you are titled means CID believes it's enough evidence to say that you may have committed this crime. That
Hmm.
title stays on your record for 50 years. So no matter what you do, even if it comes back unfounded that you did not, it was enough evidence, it wasn't enough to support the victim's story, that will still stay on your record regardless. So when you go apply for a job, it won't say that you actually did this act, but it will say that you were investigated for it.
Oh, wow.
Um, so here at Fort Gordon, in 2015, when I was the Brigade Stark, I created a program where I had CID come in and talk to the IET soldiers within 72 hours of them arriving on ground as soon as they got there, because I realized in basic training, they weren't getting the training. They got the training, but it wasn't in-depth training to where they can get a good grasp of if you make this inappropriate comment, this can happen to you, and then your career is gone because you didn't know you made that comment, or you give me a shoulder rub I didn't ask for, and now you're titled, and this is on your record for 50 years, and it was the shoulder rub. So as soon as they come in within 72 hours, they got this briefing from me. They got it from medical. They knew about the behavior health services that were available if you become a victim. They knew about the medical services. They knew about what legal would do if you're on the subject end, and then they knew about CID and what would happen if you're on the subject end. So they got a dose from every entity that has something to do with SHARP, which is what we call the SART panel. And my cases on the installation did like a dramatic decrease. My harassments went up. But like I say, soldiers are realizing that the jokes are inappropriate, and things like music. But my sexual assault cases went down. And not saying that training had anything to do with it, but I feel like it was a tool because soldiers realize I can't go give you a good game and think it's okay, even though we're not playing basketball. We at the gut truck getting something to drink.
Right.
So yeah, so that person is flagged and they are put up under watch under that first sergeants and that commanders visualization until that investigation is done. There have been cases where alleged subjects have been put in pre-confinement. It just depends on the situation with that subject.
Wow. Well, thank you for clearing that up and explaining the difference between the two, because I know I know that if I'm thinking it, there may be other people thinking it out there like that too. So thank you so much for clearing that up here.
You're
And
welcome.
the last question that I'll have for you, and it's going to be something that's personal to me because I've experienced it. And when I was in the management position, my manager, she used to get upset with me like, David, why do you never tuck your shirt in at work? And I explained to her some things that happened to me when in another position, which I was, harassed and stuff like that. And, women grabbing and touching and things like that. And as me being a male, I didn't report anything because I'm thinking, well, okay, males don't report this, and they're going to say, well, that's what you want anyway. And then I was afraid that something would be turned on me. So in the military, in the Army specifically, how many males report sexual harassment or sexual assault?
Not a lot, and that's unfortunate. Talking to the male population, um, outside of that training that I was telling you about, the 72-hour training, we had what we called a weekend workshop. And what we did was we had a workshop for all females, and then we had a workshop for all the males. Now, this is the IET environment, not the active duty, because that's our biggest population on Fort Gordon, our IET population. And so I asked the males that, and I asked them, I said, what would be a contributing factor to you not reporting? And so I had some males stand up and they tell me, well, if she's pretty, Starring Kitchen, I'm not going to report it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just being honest. And, they laughed and giggled. But in that environment, I wanted them to speak freely, because we noticed that when we mix the males and the females, when they get ready to speak, they kind of look at each other. Nobody wants to, be, how it is, the younger generation these days, you're cool, you're a snitch or whatever. But we saw that they talked a lot when they were in their own environment, when the females were with the females and the males were with the males. And so another male said, well, I don't want to look weak. Like, how would my friends look at me if I said I didn't want this woman touching on me or feeling on me? Then they'll call my sexuality into question, and I'm labeled this. So that's why I wouldn't report. Not saying that that's why reports are low for males, but I mean that's just what we're looking at. Now, there has been a significant increase over the years with the program of males reporting sexual assault and sexual harassment, but not as high as the reports that we get from females. And I think society and the way the macho, that what you call it,
It's so masculine.
That ego, that masculine, right? I
Yeah.
think that men, I don't want to quote, but I think men feel like they would be in question, and they will allow this to go on just because that's what they feel like men should be able to do. And again, we see some changes in it. We see more men are starting to report. Because they have training right now that are specifically for males. We have speakers that go across the world speaking, male speakers that have experienced sexual harassment and sexual assault.
Wow.
And so I think that makes more men a little bit more comfortable coming forward, because, hey, I see this man, he's 6'5", 250. He's coming in here telling me about when he was sexually, assaulted at this location, or this happened to him and it was by a female. So, if we get a lot more men to come forward and start putting that message out that it's okay for you to report, and, it has nothing to do with your sexuality or your masculinity, then I think the reports will go up a little bit more.
That's very good information there, because when I was dealing with what I was dealing with, I didn't want to go to anyone because, masculinity. I was afraid that it would get turned around to me. Well, what did you do to make this person do that? And so I just dealt with it. Like, I almost dreaded going to work every day, and I didn't know what to do. So I just dealt with it. But
this was in the private sector?
Yeah, it was in the private sector. And I know that, a lot of civilians or, military men and who turn into civilians, they had this big masculinity, complex. I can't, I don't want, and me being a Cavalry Scout and then me being injured in Iraq, some people see David as, oh, you're so tough and you're this, you're that. Why,
right.
You're not going to report this, you're not going to report that. And that's how some people thought. And a female asked me, what are you going to do? Report it. And
wow.
I was, I just didn't know what to do, So it was a horrible situation to be in. Luckily, I got out of it, left that organization. But that was not the last question, but this is the last question here that I would like to ask you. And I do thank you very much for your time. So if someone in the military is watching this right now and they're experiencing any type of sexual assault or sexual harassment, what would be your advice for them to report it and come forward about it?
I would tell them to have faith in the program. The SHARP program is an excellent program when it is used correctly. And when I say correctly, I mean having faith in your SARC, having faith in your chain of command. There are various ways for you to report right now. You can report anonymously without even giving your name. On the headquarters and DA Sharp website, you can call hotlines. Every installation has a hotline you can call. There are private sectors like RAIN and National Women's Coalition Against Violence. There are various outlets that you can call that will direct you back to the area you're in to help assist you. So please don't ever feel like you're alone. Don't ever feel like you cannot come forward. I have a Facebook page for Fort Gordon Installation Sharp. I have a Twitter. I have Instagram, because I know social media is the platform right now for this generation, whether young or old. We all use social media. So we want as much information put out there, and just know that you're not alone, and we are here to listen.
Awesome. Well, Ms. Kitchen, I sincerely want to thank you for your time. Thank you for those who are watching live, and for those who are watching the replay. If you're joining us late, this is David Kendrick with Mrs. LynJondria. I don't want to pronounce it. Can you say it again for me, please?
LynJondria.
There we go. All right. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for those who have joined us live, and for those who are watching the replay. This is Lions Speaking Agency, and you can tune in weekly for mental health talks. I'm going to ask you to stay on, Ms. Kitchen, while I end the broadcast. Thank you, everyone who's watching live. You have a great day.